Do you know about the tragic life of Robert Redford? What really happened to him? At 87, the tragic real-life story of Robert Redford. It's no overstatement to call Robert Redford one of the most important people in Hollywood history. Upon his emergence as a boomer generation icon in the 1960s, he was merely a devastatingly handsome leading man type, an A-lister for decades for his work in classic movies like Barefoot in the Park, Jeremiah Johnson, The Sting, The Natural, The Great Gatsby, and All the President's Men. But that wasn't enough for Redford, who became one of the first big stars to segue into directing, for which he won an Oscar in 1981 for Ordinary People. A champion of filmmaking, he'd found the highly influential, indie film-touting Sundance Film Festival and become an outspoken naturalist, environmentalist, and conservationist, too. But for all the art and positivity that Redford has undoubtedly unleashed into the world, he's endured a shocking amount of hardship, misfortune, death, dysfunction, calamity, and tragedy. Here's a look at the worst, lowest, and most trying moments in the long life and career of Robert Redford. Robert Redford lost an important father figure at a young age. Robert Redford was raised in the Los Angeles area by two parents, Mother Martha and Father Charles, who supported his family throughout the Great Depression as a milkman-turned-accountant who worked for Standard Oil, per Robert Redford, the biography. According to the Mirror, Redford's father had to work such long hours that it left little time for family, and Charles Redford's brother, David, filled the void of a father figure for the future superstar. Redford, who would later pursue athletics and a number of cerebral and artistic paths, must have been influenced by the large amounts of time he spent with his well-rounded uncle, a gifted football player who spoke 4 languages. David Redford was a member of the U.S. military, and he served as an interpreter in General George S. Patton's Third Army. Gone his furlough, he'd come down to play baseball with me and so forth. But then in the early 1940s, the elder Redford was called away to combat and he died in the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. Young Robert Redford was devastated by the death of his uncle, and he didn't get a lot of grief support. The way the family dealt with it, it just wasn't talked about. It just happened, and you didn't ask a lot of questions, he told NPR. Robert Redford also lost his mother early, not long after he recovered from a childhood bout of polio, per NPR. A very young Robert Redford dealt with a tremendous family tragedy, the effects of which would be felt for years and end in even more untimely death. When Redford was 10 years old, according to a speech at the Sundance Film Festival Utah Women's Leadership Celebration, via Closer Weekly, the actor's mother, Martha Redford, gave birth to twin girls. Her doctor advised against the pregnancy. Robert Redford's birth had been particularly medically troublesome. She wanted a family so badly, she got pregnant again, Redford said. The twins died almost immediately after birth. During that chaotic, traumatic medical episode, Martha Redford developed a blood disorder, which would remain a permanent, nagging condition until it led to a hemorrhage that would be the primary factor leading to her death in 1955. She was 40, her son was 18. His first son died in infancy, slightly more than a decade after grieving the immediate death of his newborn twin siblings. Robert Redford once more dealt with the tragic loss of an infant, this time it was his own child, his first offspring. According to Closer Weekly, in 1958, he married Lola Van Wagenen, a historian based in Los Angeles. Per the Mirror, the couple eloped and then quickly moved to New York, where Redford studied at the Pratt Institute before being cast in a play. By 1959, the Redfords had started a family that would eventually include 3 surviving children. The firstborn, a son named Scott, wouldn't live to adulthood. At just 10 weeks old, Scott Redford died from sudden infant death syndrome, a mysterious and still poorly understood condition also called a crib death. That was a tough hit, Robert Redford told People in 1998. It was our first child. We were in New York and we were broke. It was really tough. Declining to speak about the event much over the years, Redford instead quietly raised funds for research into the causes of SIDS. His second son faced numerous health calamities. Following the early and untimely loss of baby son Scott, Robert Redford and Lola Van Wagenen built a large family, per Closer Weekly, which would include children James or Jamie, Shauna, and Amy Redford. Like his deceased brother, eldest Redford sibling Jamie would also endure health problems as a child and throughout his life. According to a Robert Redford, the biography, doctors diagnosed newborn Jamie Redford with a severe, potentially deadly case of hyaline membrane disease, an infant respiratory condition, per Medicine Net, giving survival odds of 40%. The child recovered, but Jamie Redford has suffered the furies of medical woes, his father told People, including colitis, a chronic digestive condition that leads to inflammation of the colon, infections, and blood flow problems, according to the George Washington University Hospital. The colitis in turn directly led to liver issues, and Jamie Redford was diagnosed with cirrhosis, and he received a liver transplant in 1993 at age 31. Unfortunately, the new organ didn't alleviate the younger Redford's health issues, and Jamie Redford had to undergo another liver transplant. Every weekend while filming a quiz show in New York, Robert Redford would fly out to Omaha to be with Jamie, where he was hospitalized. Jamie Redford slowly recovered after the second transplant and endured serious complications, but he would ultimately survive and continue his career as a filmmaker and producer for 3 more decades. He died in 2020 at age 58 of bile duct cancer. Robert Redford's first marriage ended in divorce. For many years, Robert Redford represented one half of one of the longest-enduring marriages amongst the Hollywood elite, a group notorious for short-lived wedded bliss. According to Closer Weekly, he married Lola Van Wagenen way back in 1958, well before he found fame and fortune as an actor or filmmaker. The pairing lasted, despite a less-than-rock-solid foundation, since he married her in part to prove to his family that he could pull it off. They feared that I was going to go off the deep end, or that I would never amount to anything or die at an early age. I wanted to prove them wrong, he told The Telegraph, noting that he and Wagenen had $300 between them at the time of their wedding. After parenting 3 kids to adulthood across nearly 3 decades, Redford and Van Wagenen divorced in 1985, according to People. I got lost for a time, the actor said of post-marriage life. After failed flings with actor Sonia Braga and costume designer Kathy O'Rear, Redford met Billy Saggers, an artist about 20 years younger. They met in 1996 and married in 2009. So dear viewers, please like this video and subscribe our channel. Thanks for watching.